Liberal Democrat spokesperson Caroline Voaden.
Thank you, Ms Lewell. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. And thank you also to the member for Keighley and Ilkley for introducing this debate and setting out the issues. And to the over 181,000 members of the public who signed the petition, 243 of them from my own constituency. We know that being in school is the best way for children to reach their potential. Absence from school, especially when persistent, and I will come back to this later in my speech, can impact children both academically and socially. Yet for some children, our system is designed in such a way that school itself can impact a child's well-being. The petition that has brought us here today is focused specifically on absence due to holidays. It's clear all members here agree that downtime with family is important, a chance to rest, to spend time together without all the usual pressures, and just to be. And I hope some lucky members here have fond memories of holiday trips to South Devon in my constituency. Research from the Department for Education published earlier this year highlighted this. It found that a pupil who attends 95 to 100% of the time is twice as likely to achieve English and Maths grade 5 than a pupil who attends 90 to 95% of the time, and 23 times more likely than a pupil who attends less than half the time. So even missing 10% of school time can influence the grades a child is likely to achieve at GCSE. The default position should be that children attend school every day unless exceptional circumstances prevent it, and we must use all available means to encourage this. Deterrence through fines does play a role in this. However, we are concerned by the current culture which reaches immediately for the fine lever, which has lost its impact, as many parents now factor fines into the cost of any term time holiday they take, entrenching the divide between those who can afford it and those who can't. Instead of using blanket fines, we would seek to reduce the pressure on local authorities and schools to issue fines for absence, encouraging instead a collaborative approach between schools and parents which builds trust and puts the wider interests of the child at the centre. And this is really key during times such as family illness or bereavement, as other members have said. Holidays allow children to learn beyond the classroom, discovering new passions, abilities and interests through new experiences and simply being in a different environment. For many families, organising a holiday when schools are closed is not a problem. But for others, the prospect of a holiday outside of term time is simply not affordable. They cannot pay the enormously hiked holiday prices during high demand periods. One of my constituents wrote to me reporting that he had to pay £3,000 more to take his grandchildren away during the school holidays compared to during term time. These extortionate price hikes mean families cannot afford to go away outside of term time, which unfairly robs children of new and enriching experiences, and mainly those children who would benefit most from the chance. Parents, carers and grandparents should not have to choose between shelling out thousands of pounds on the additional costs of a holiday outside of term time or paying a fine. Instead, airlines and travel operators should stop taking advantage of families. Nearly doubling or more the price of the same holiday package from one day to the next is exploitative and completely out of line with any surge in demand, as both the members for Hartlepool and Stevenage have both so perfectly illustrated in their speeches. But this issue with holidays and when people can afford to go is indicative of a wider issue, that school absence is closely tied to a family's financial situation. In the 24 to 25 school year, the absence rate for those who were eligible for free school meals was 10.3%, compared to those who weren't eligible being nearly half as absent at 5.2%. The Liberal Democrats are pleased that the government have recognised this and are taking steps to resolve it. The rollout of free breakfast clubs to every state primary school in England and the adoption of the much-loved Liberal Democrat policy to extend free school meal eligibility to those children in England whose families claim universal credit will both help to address persistent absence. The government's very provision of those meals and the new breakfast clubs indicates that they acknowledge the correlation between a family's finances and a child's attendance. But I'd like to ask the Minister directly what the government has done to investigate and relieve the holiday-related financial burdens for those children and families who need it most. Aside from financial concerns, we should also acknowledge that term dates are decided in part by schools. Schools, therefore, could be encouraged to organise term dates in such a way that the largest number of families in their communities can benefit from school holidays. For example, some schools might want to shorten the Christmas holidays so that they can offer other holidays for other religious festivals, so members of other communities don't face fines if they want to celebrate together as a family. Being flexible with inset and training days can also enable parents to spend time with children outside of school at cheaper times of year. And in areas like mine, where families run tourism and hospitality businesses, more flexibility would enable them also to have a holiday, which they just can't take in peak seasons. But I'd like to turn now to the more worrying situation we have with persistent absences. Since the pandemic, the level of absence from schools has become a national crisis. It is doing significant levels of damage to children's development and impacting their future life chances. The general absence rate in the last academic year was still 2% higher than the rates recorded during the 6 years before the pandemic. And persistent absence, defined as missing 10% or more lessons in a year, remained well above the pre-pandemic rate of 10.5% at a worrying 17.6% in the last academic year. In many cases, holidays and recreation are not the main reason for parents taking their children out of school, but that children are forced out of the system by factors outside of their own control. We see persistent absences faced by pupils with SEND, by young carers, and those with mental health conditions. Regarding those children with SEND, this is well illustrated in my constituency. Across Devon, the rates of school absence for those with SEND support and those with EHC plans have nearly doubled from 6 and 7.5% respectively in 2016-17 to 11.2 and 13.75% in the last academic year. Nationally, over 72,000 children with SEND missed half their lessons in the last academic school year, which is an increase of nearly 9,000 compared to the previous year. This is a direct consequence of inadequate SEND provision and EHCP funding. After years of neglect under the Conservative government, the system is failing to deliver the outcome SEND children deserve, pushing them out of school. Addressing these underlying causes of absence needs to be done constructively, not punitively. No parent should be fined if their child is unable to attend school because of inadequate SEND provision, and no child should be punished for being late because they have the responsibility of caring for a loved one at home. The Liberal Democrats have long called for measures that will help to encourage all these children back into the classroom, including having a qualified mental health professional in every primary and secondary school and giving local authorities extra funding to reduce the amount that schools have to pay towards the cost of EHCPs. The central point is that we must first understand why a child is not attending school, whether it is due to the unaffordability of holidays outside of term time, due to SEND, due to young caring responsibilities, religious holidays, bereavement or other factors. This understanding needs to be the starting point before any further action is taken. The solution to both this petition and school absence more generally is not to compel children to attend school with the threat of punishment, but to ensure they are genuinely able to attend, not forcing them to learn, but enabling them, whether that is tackling the exploitative pricing structures of travel companies and airlines, or removing structural barriers to regular attendance for SEND children, disadvantaged students and carers. We must think in a much bigger way about how to tackle these issues. Fining parents should be a last resort and only one of a suite of options for local authorities and schools to work with parents and encourage the best attendance possible for all our children.